Hello, Dr. Richter here with yet another edition how omega-3 is superior to drugs. Are you on blood pressure medications? Well, you should think again because all you're doing is masking your check engine light with a tape, and it's not going to be pretty in the end. Omega-3 actually can really reverse the situation, and the science is solid. So let's talk about it. Basically, you need 8%. Most people have 2%. That's 100% risk of cardiovascular disease. Naturally, that is the reason for why everybody over 60 ends up with high blood pressure. And it all starts in the kidney. Let's get to the bottom of this. But once again, only 8% gets you in the safe zone. And that is something that is achievable with a very high dose of a non-rancid supplement. However, you need to be sure that it is a very good supplement. Too much omega-6 is the root of the problem. It is inflammatory. You have a 25-to-1 ratio. That's what 1.5 million tests now show. And these are basically in a situation where you have a 12% inflammatory arachidonic acid versus only 0.5% anti-inflammatory omega-3 EPA. So yes, that this is the root of the problem, and it's chronification of inflammation. And then you end up with an immune system that's continuously overstimulated towards inflammation, destroying your capillaries and especially destroying the capillaries in your kidneys. So when you take blood pressure medications, you are actually destroying the power plants in your cells, namely the mitochondria. They are absolutely necessary for the production of aerobic energy. And together with that high omega-3 deficiency, basically your cells are going into a vicious cycle, and you are actually even harder pressed to incorporate omega-3. This is a very vicious cycle, and it gets intensified by blood pressure medications. How does this work? Basically, the electron transfer chain in your mitochondria, which are responsible for aerobic energy, namely transferring electrons to oxygen in the end, creating 32 ATP, which are your energy carrier, are no longer working. And blood pressure medications, namely ACE inhibitors, are basically inhibiting this complex. And that in turn kills your mitochondria, creating even lower ATP yield and so-called oxidative leakage, more reactive oxygen species. Everybody knows what that means when you can't combat your oxidative damage. And that loss then also leads to a very unstable membrane. In the end, your mitochondria get destroyed, which destroys your kidneys, which regulate your blood pressure. In turn, that creates the vicious cycle. So without going into more detail of how ACE inhibitors actually kill this activity, it is scientifically shown that this particular mechanism is real. And sure, maybe you can take blood pressure medications for a very short amount of time if you need to, but long term, you are not going to win. And this is basically what's happening. You're creating a pseudo-aged metabolic state. So you're aging faster. Without aerobic mitochondria, you turn everything into anaerobic glycolysis, which, by the way, also favors cancer. cancer lives on anaerobic glycolysis, you're basically in a vicious cycle of more renal hypoxia, meaning that your kidneys just don't run on oxygen and blood flow gets reduced, which creates even more death of the little capillaries in your glomeruli, which regulate the blood pressure, leading to more enzymatic blood pressure activation, namely RAAS, creating more hypertension and more vascular oxidative stress because hypertension kills your arteries. This is not hard to understand, which in turn then creates more loss of mitochondria. So the vicious cycle is not really hard to understand, yet everybody thinks they will actually get some help from these medications. No, you're just putting a masking tape on a check engine light. The real solution is omega-3, which has been shown to reduce blood pressure, which is just a side effect of metabolic syndrome. And we've known all of this for 70 years. And we know that populations with 6% omega-3, which isn't enough, right? It's just in the intermediate state. It is not enough, okay? Have almost no heart disease. When it goes to 8%, it goes literally to zero. That's why 8% is the threshold. And we've known this for a long, long time through studies of Eskimos and others, hunters and gatherers. That's how we were made. But yet, nowadays we can just divide population into omega-3 and look at their outcome in cardiovascular disease. And that's what you get. So it's really not very hard to understand. You don't even need a study for this. You just look at how much omega-3 do you have and how much disease does it cause. So only at 8% you are safe. And after omega-3 goes down, meaning omega-3 goes up, all other inflammatory markers follow. So when you have 100% disease risk, meaning very low omega-3, lowest quartile, all your markers are high. And guess what? When omega-3 goes to the highest percentage, all the other markers follow. So omega-3 is first, everything else is follows. And that's very simple because it's at the top of the pyramid of the immune system and the inflammatory cascade. Nothing else comes above it. So yes, cholesterol discussion is futile. Cholesterol is a coincidence. Cholesterol is the second most important molecule after omega-3. We need it to stabilize our membranes and regulate blood pressure. So that is all just a diversion of the real problem, which is when you get to very high omega-3 levels, basically all other inflammatory markers are literally falling off the wagon. So yeah, save your kidneys with high omega-3, leading to a very low inflammatory index. And in turn, that will save your blood pressure, which is just a side effect of metabolic syndrome. And once you have 8%, you can definitely save your kidneys. Once your kidneys are 70% destroyed, it is going to be difficult. It's a very complex organ, and it cannot be easily renewed, if at all. So what is your omega-3 index? Just test. Get on a scale for inflammaging. More inflammation means more aging because it means more death of mitochondria. And now you're speeding up that process with ACE inhibitors. And all of that can also be correlated with entire metabolic profiling and other blood markers. So there isn't a big mystery here. get tested, know your omega-3 index, and stop chasing a cat's tail only when this index goes to 3 to 1, 2 to 1, you are in the green, because when omega-3 is 8%, this index will go to 3 to 1, 2 to 1. I hope this all makes sense to you guys, and I hope you will find some second thoughts about taking long-term medications, and contact us at the omega3health.us website and avoid the zipper. Thank you very much.